3 years before that Tuesday morning, Marcus Reed was 31 years old and unstoppable. He was the youngest senior attorney at Whitmore and Associates, the most prestigious law firm in Chicago. He drove a black Audi, lived in a penthouse apartment in Lincoln Park, and had a 5-year plan that included a partnership, a beach house in Florida, and absolutely no children. Children were not part of the plan. Emma Clark was. Emma was a pediatric nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, warm, laughing, and so quietly beautiful that Marcus noticed her the very first night he was brought into the emergency room with a fractured wrist after a racquetball accident. She had wrapped his wrist with steady hands and asked him, without any hint of being impressed, "So what does a man in a $3,000 suit do that lands him in the on a Friday night?" He had laughed, really laughed, something he hadn't done in a long time. They started dating 3 weeks later. For 8 months, Marcus Reed experienced something he had never expected: peace. Emma didn't care about his salary. She didn't try to attend his firm's galas or impress his partners. She made soup from scratch, watched old black and white films, and spent Sunday mornings volunteering at a children's literacy program. She was real in every way that his world was not. But Marcus was also terrified of her. Not of Emma herself, but of what she made him feel. Of how completely she had slipped past every defense he'd spent his entire career constructing. He wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready for her. So when Emma told him, on a quiet October evening, that she was 8 weeks pregnant, Marcus did what men who are afraid of love sometimes do. He ran. Not all at once. He didn't shout or make a scene. He simply became less available, less warm, less present. He told Emma, over a dinner he could barely eat, that he wasn't ready for this level of commitment. That he cared about her, but that a baby wasn't something he had planned for. He offered, coldly, clinically, like he was drafting a settlement, to handle the financial side of things. Emma had looked at him for a long moment. Then she had picked up her coat, folded it over her arm with perfect dignity, and walked out of the restaurant without saying a single word. He never heard from her again. He told himself it was for the best. That Emma was strong. That she would be fine. That he would be fine. He threw himself back into work, made partner 18 months ahead of schedule, and on most nights, successfully convinced himself that the chapter was closed. But some nights, usually around 2 a.m., when the apartment was too quiet, he would think about Emma Clark and the quiet October evening and the look on her face when he had offered her money instead of love. And on those nights, the penthouse felt like a prison. The call came on a Tuesday in November. It was from Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Not Emma. The hospital itself. A nurse named Carol asked if he was Marcus Reed, if he had previously been in a relationship with Emma Clark, and whether he could come to the hospital. "Is she okay?" he heard himself ask. His voice sounded strange to him. "Stripped. She's stable," the nurse said carefully. "But she asked for you. She asked us to call you." He was in his car before he'd even hung up the phone. The 40-minute drive to Northwestern felt like 40 hours. He ran every red scenario through his attorney's mind: accident, illness, something worse. By the time he pushed through the hospital's glass doors and found the waiting area, his hands were unsteady in a way that depositions and courtrooms had never once made them. He almost didn't see her at first. He saw the child, a little girl, maybe 2.5 years old, sitting in a waiting room chair that was far too big for her. Blonde hair, pink shirt, small hands folded neatly in her lap like a tiny adult. And when she looked up at the sound of footsteps, Marcus stopped breathing. She had his eyes, not similar to his eyes. Not vaguely reminiscent. His exact eyes, that specific shade of pale Nordic blue, the slight upward tilt at the outer corners, the long lashes. He was looking at himself. A nurse he didn't recognize stepped toward him. "Mr. Reed, I'm Carol. We spoke on the phone." She glanced at the little girl. "This is Lily, Emma's daughter. Your daughter, we believe. Your daughter." The words hit him like a physical force. "Emma was brought in 2 nights ago," Carol continued quietly. "Appendix. Emergency surgery. She's recovering well. She'll be completely fine, but she had no emergency contacts listed except," Carol paused. "She had your name, just your name, written on a folded piece of paper in her wallet. No number. We found you through the firm. Marcus couldn't take his eyes off the little girl. Lily was watching him with those impossible blue eyes, not afraid, not reaching for him. Just studying him, the way very small children study things they're trying to understand. "Hi," he said. His voice came out as barely a whisper. Lily considered him seriously. Then she held up the small stuffed rabbit she'd been clutching and said, in a voice like a bell, "This is Bun Bun. He's shy too." Marcus Reed, who had cross-examined federal witnesses without blinking, who had won cases that made national headlines, who had not cried since he was 9 years old, felt his throat close completely. He sat down on the waiting room chair beside her. "I'm shy too sometimes," he managed. "I'm Marcus." Lily nodded solemnly. "Mama talks about you sometimes. When she thinks I'm sleeping." He didn't trust himself to respond to that. He sat with Lily for 2 hours while Emma remained in recovery. He learned that Bun Bun was afraid of thunder but brave about everything else. He learned that Lily's favorite color was sparkle. He learned that she could count to 20 in English and to 10 in Spanish because her babysitter, Mrs. Reyes, had taught her. He learned that she liked grilled cheese but not when the bread was too brown. He learned all of this in 2 hours, and he felt every minute of the last 3 years land on him like stones. When they finally let him see Emma, she was pale against the white hospital pillow, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. She turned her head when she heard him come in, and her expression did something complicated: surprise, guarded, exhausted, careful. "You came," she said. "You kept my name," he said. Silence stretched between them, carrying 3 years of weight. "I kept it for Lily," Emma said quietly. "Not for you. In case something ever happened to me and she needed to know where half of herself came from." Her jaw was set. "I wasn't calling you, Marcus. I wasn't asking for anything." "I know." He pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down. He didn't reach for her hand. He had lost the right to that. "I know you weren't. I know exactly what you were and weren't asking for, and I know exactly what I did. I'm not here to make excuses." Emma looked at him for a long moment. "She has your eyes," Emma said softly. And then, perhaps because she was tired, or in pain, or because 3 years of carrying everything alone had finally worn down the last of her armor, her own eyes filled. She blinked hard. "She's so good, Marcus. She's so funny and she's so kind and she talks to every dog she sees on the street and she," Emma stopped. Pressed her lips together. "She deserved a father. She's always deserved a father." Marcus leaned forward and rested his elbows on his knees and pressed both hands over his face. "I know," he said. "And it came out broken. I know she did. I'm sorry, Emma. I am so sorry." They stayed like that. Not together, not repaired, but present, while outside the room, in the too big waiting chair, a little girl with blue eyes explained to Bun Bun that her daddy had finally come. The months that followed were not a fairy tale. Marcus did not swoop in and fix everything with a gesture or a check. Emma did not forgive him overnight. Lily did not call him daddy for a long time. What happened instead was slower and harder and more honest than any of that. Marcus hired the best family attorney in Chicago, not to fight Emma, but to establish proper support, legal paternity, and a custody arrangement that put Lily first in every single clause. He showed up, not grandly, not with gifts, but with consistency: Tuesday evenings, Saturday mornings, a slow and careful presence that Lily could learn to count on. He attended Lily's pediatric checkups. He learned her routines. He sat through 17 consecutive viewings of the same animated film about a lost bunny because Lily decided it was their movie. Emma watched all of this with careful eyes. What she saw was not the Marcus who had offered money instead of love in a restaurant 3 years ago. What she saw was a man quietly, painstakingly, trying to become someone worthy of the little girl he had almost missed entirely. 6 months after that Tuesday in the hospital, Emma let him take Lily to the park alone for the first time. When they came back, Lily ran through the apartment door shouting, "Mama! Daddy pushed me on the swings so high." Emma looked up from the kitchen counter. Marcus stood in the doorway, eyes red. Emma set down the dish towel. And for the first time in 3 years, she crossed the room toward him. Español, Historia completa, Historia continua en inglés arriba, Version completa en español disponible para subtítulos o voiceover bilingüe. Marcus Reed had spent 3 years running from the best thing that ever happened to him. It took a little girl with blue eyes, a stuffed rabbit named Bun Bun, and one cold Tuesday morning in a hospital waiting room, to finally make him stop. Some men spend their whole lives building a future, and never realize the family they need is the one they walked away from. Lily got her father, Emma got her truth, and Marcus got something